You're listening to the Astrology Hub podcast, practical wisdom for living your life on purpose. Hi there, my name's Amanda Poole-Walsh and I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and we have a really exciting episode planned for you today. So why do I use the word exciting? Like, why that specific word? First, because our guest, Stormy Grace, is making her Astrology Hub debut here with us today. I was just recently introduced to her work on YouTube and felt that familiar, instant yes I get when I'm introduced to someone whose work resonates so deeply with our mission here at Astrology Hub. So excited she came into my conscious awareness and that she is going to be here with you today. And second, I use the word exciting because Stormy's going to excite, to stir, to ignite you on a deep soul level. As a continuation of the soul purpose theme we've been covering all month, in this episode we cover Stormy's story and how she went from aspiring medical doctor to radio show host to astrologer and YouTube sensation. We're going to cover how and why other people may be able to see your soul's purpose expressing long before you ever do. And also the difference between soul and life purpose and how to know when you're aligned with these aspects of yourself. So if you are considering making a move in the direction of your soul's calling, but you're afraid of making that leap, which I totally, completely understand, in this episode, you're going to get to hear about the miraculous things that unfolded for Stormy when she said yes. So that, to me alone, is so inspiring. You're going to love her story. Also, if you're ready to be reminded about your purpose and your path, this episode is for you. But before we dive in, I'd love to do a listener shout out. This shout out is for 13stargirl13. And I want to thank you for your review of the show. Stargirl entitled her review of the podcast, Know Thyself. And here's what she says. An insightful program, as are so many of the programs offered by Astrology Hub. Thanks for that, Stargirl. If understanding oneself is the key to life, then Astrology Hub is the place for you to find these kinds of offerings. So again, thank you, Stargirl. I really appreciate you taking the time to rate and review the show, and I'm so happy you're enjoying it. And what I love most about this review is the emphasis that she places on the power of knowing ourselves. So Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And wouldn't you say that this is one of the main reasons that you're drawn to astrology, for that deep yearning to understand yourself? It truly is one of the biggest gifts that astrology provides. And with the understanding and insights it provides about you, you're able to understand and have compassion for others. And really, how invaluable is this? So I got to have a firsthand experience of this power last weekend with my 10-year-old daughter, Madeline. She has been asking me for an astrology reading for years. And I kept saying, no, I'm not an astrologer. Let me get you a real reading with a real astrologer. And she consistently said, no, Mama, I want a reading with you. So I finally gave in. And last weekend, we spread out a blanket and a picnic lunch at a park here on Maui called Rainbow Park. And I opened up my laptop to give her her first astrology reading. We only made it through her sun, her moon, her rising, her Mercury, and her Venus. But wow, that alone opened up so many doors for us. It allowed me to ask questions about her inner world, her hopes, her fears, and her dreams. It allowed me to confirm for her how beautiful and wonderfully unique she is. I saw her holding her chin a little higher. I saw a twinkle in her eyes and a sweet little smile on her face as I translated her chart for her. And the reading even gave us a chance to dive into some of the places in her life that may pose a challenge for her. Namely, with all of her Libra and 11th house activity, she may have a hard time giving herself away or doing whatever she can to create harmony, even at the expense of herself. And the cool thing about this, she's already experiencing this. She could relate, and it allowed us to have a dialogue about how to work with this. She was also very distraught that it's hard for her to do this now. So hold her space and hold herself. But I assured her, you're only 10. You have a lifetime to work on this. And really, most adults are struggling with the same thing. So please do not be hard on yourself. She also has Saturn in Virgo. So lots of self-criticism and things there. So, but knowing this is so empowering, both for me as a mother and for her in her life. And I'm so excited to watch how this continues to unfold. I know it's just the beginning. And words really cannot express what a gift this sacred moment was for us both. Astrology really was the unifying factor and the common language that we could use to communicate on the level of her soul. And I know that it's a gift that will continue to give. So a few takeaways from this story before we jump in with Stormy. You're going to hear in Stormy's story that she, too, struggled to call herself an astrologer. Even after she had studied for years, was giving readings with incredible results and feedback and being paid for them. So how many of you out there feel that way? Maybe you've been studying astrology for months, years, or even decades, and you still hesitate to call yourself an astrologer or do readings for loved ones. Maybe just ponder why that is. I think there's some really good material for all of us to really just sit with and meditate on, and like, why am I afraid to like don that mantle? To really step into that, to really own that. So really just check that out for yourself. And then the second takeaway is that some of the most basic elements of your chart hold significant keys for you. So astrology can get complex fast, but it doesn't have to in order to be useful. We only covered a few points on Madeline's chart, and I was amazed to remember how deeply essential and core those points are and how they reveal so much. And to that point, we're doing some free live soul purpose chart readings next week. So Stormy will be one of the astrologers who will be doing these, but we'll also have Nadia Shah, Tammy Brunk, Divine Harmony on as well, showing you how the sun, moon, Saturn, and the moon's nodes all reveal important aspects of your soul's purpose. You'll see them decoding these points for live audience members, and as they do, you'll get insights into your chart and your unique destiny. So just go to astrologyhub.com/soul to reserve your spot for one of the live demos today, and I would love to see you there live. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, now a little bit more information about Stormy before we dive into the conversation that we had together. Stormy Grace is an astrologer who is committed to teaching others how to use their divine energy to maximize their prosperity, experience the joys of love, enhance energy, find their true spirit, and empower themselves to grow and experience inner peace. Stormy's quirky, funny, humble, sensual, and relatable style, paired with her expert proficiency at astrology and the ability to deliver the information in an understandable way, keeps her grateful clients coming back for more. She is wildly passionate about teaching astrology, welcoming people into learning about the energy around them, and teaching others how to uncover the wisdom of the stars as they relate to their lifetime journey. Stormy's never-ending quest for knowledge has led her to pursue a doctorate in management, a PhD in metaphysical science. These valuable skills enable her to consult her business organizations in ways which match the traditional business environment, yet provide energetic and spiritual pairing components from planetary energy. I would love to see her at work with this. That is the coolest thing. This diverse skill set allows her to assist businesses as they progress throughout their course and use the energy which is present in all things in the universe to chart their best course of action. So I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this uplifting and thought-provoking interview with astrologer Stormie Grace. Stormy, it is so great to have you here. You're here as your Astrology Hub debut. And we are just so honored to be featuring you and your work here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I feel like I've been telling everybody about it. I don't even know some people. And I'm like, well, astrologyhub.com though.
Oh my God, that's so great. Thank you. All right. So Stormy, since you're new to our audience, I would love to have the opportunity to get to know you better. And can you start with your story? How did you come to astrology?
Yes, it was, completely purposely on accident. I think, as I was younger, I always knew, I could always see spirit and things like that. My clairs are perfectly on, and they always have been. And I always thought I would take that into the medical field and become a doctor in that way. And in some way I would pair that with some kind of spiritual healing, but I didn't really know exactly what that looked like. So as the journey went on, I actually ended up in radio, which is as far from medicine as you can get. And I did that for a decade and loved it. And just, was so entirely passionate about what I was doing there.
What were you doing in radio?
I was a radio DJ.
Oh, nice.
And I never meant to be in radio at all. I loved talking about relationships and sex, and just how to actually have a soul connection with these things instead of them just being trashy and cheap. And sometimes you need trashy and cheap, but if you want to go deeper. So I called into a radio show to answer a question, and they gave me a job, and that was it. And a decade later, that's where I was. And I just started to have more of an awakening around astrology again. Because I should say this too, when I was younger, because I could see spirit, my family is European Catholic. And so they were pretty sure I was like, needed to have the exorcist come for me. But my mom, she took me to the metaphysical community, and we had gone to a fair, and I was watching this woman do an astrology chart, and I just got it. I was like, oh yeah, I get it. And I didn't get the tarot readers, and I didn't get numerology, but I just got the astrology. And that was that I was 6. So fast forward to radio, I walked into this place that I loved after a decade of being there. And I walked in, and I just was hit with all of the information. I was like, I'm going to leave here. I'm going to start an astrology practice, and I'm going to start it on YouTube. And I was like, I have lost my freaking mind. This is it. I've done it. I have gone crazy. And I had no idea what that was going to look like. I just knew that it was the absolute truth. And so started a process to leave radio. It took me a year, just loaded with fear. At the same time, having never watched a YouTube video, having never seen clients live in this kind of setting. I had a lot of building from scratch to do and a lot of learning. And it was all on faith. That's it. So I was like, you know what? I have the intelligence, but I also am just going to have to step out here on faith. And so I started a YouTube channel, and I started doing some readings for free. And I read for free for about a year because I was convinced that I was an absolute imposter. I was like, I've lost my freaking mind. I'm going to quit my job. I have kids. I have bills. I was in a doctorate program at the time. I just, and there it was. And it just took from there. And that it's been almost 6 years now. And I've just solidly been here. I left radio, and it was terrifying and beautiful. And I've found a home. I found an industry, and I just continue to study and grow and help people. And that's it. I know, right? Like no 70,000 years of schooling or anything like that. I landed right when I think I was supposed to.
And when did you make that transition to feeling like you weren't an imposter? That you felt legitimate, that you were ready to call yourself an astrologer and be practicing in that way?
Oh man, this is what I want people to really understand. Just because you're doing it and you're living your soul purpose doesn't mean you know that. Okay, because I didn't. I was seeing people. I had been a couple years into this already. I'm seeing people, they're paying me. I'm getting beautiful results. We're forming something beautiful. And I sat with this lady, and she's like, you're just a really great astrologer. And I was like, well, I'm not an astrologer. And there was this long pause of silence. And she's like, well, I just paid for an astrology reading, and you used astrology. And we just had to both sit there together for a minute. And I was like, oh my God, I am an astrologer. And I knew it though. When I said it out loud, I knew it, so it was just, it didn't happen overnight. It certainly didn't happen overnight. I was well into my craft before I got it.
And were you one of the people that felt like studying astrology was remembering something? Like it was something that you already knew somewhere in your cells? It's like a memory that's coming back to you? Or has it been hard for you to actually study the details and the nuances of the chart?
I think somewhere maybe just in another version of remembering, because it has never, my spiritual world of intuition, of seeing, of those kinds of things has been ongoing. That has come with me all the way through. So once I really started the astrology, all it felt like was just being guided to listen then. I didn't feel like I was remembering. I just felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And that's what it's felt like every day since. So even some of the harder concepts that we get into, they just felt like information, like, yep, that's what it is. So it's not that. Meanwhile, I can tell you, I've worked with clients where I'm like, I get it. You're waking up. You're coming back to this because now you do remember it. But it hasn't been like that. It's just been like, what's next?
And I like that. I like that it's been a listening for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. Okay. So when you talk about soul purpose, you're obviously living yours, but like you said, it's a lot of times obvious to everybody but you when you're on your path. That's great. What do you mean by soul purpose? What do you think soul purpose actually is?
So I think that the soul purpose is just, this place that I think has lived many, many lifetimes, that exists in a place that our bodies are not. I think that's the soul. And then what it's doing here, what is it tinkering around trying to learn? I don't necessarily believe that in any incarnation it's punishment and we're here for that and to learn those things. But I think the soul is a nosy little energy and is like, I'd like to learn this and I'd like to learn this. And it gets to do that. And somewhere along the way, it ties in with our life purpose. And we go out and the soul gets to learn the things, do the things, and help impact areas of our given charts in our world. So, I think soul purpose is, what is your soul trying to figure out here? What are you doing? What are you getting into? And sometimes that's crazy.
Okay, that's an interesting distinction too. So tell us what you mean by soul purpose versus life purpose.
Soul purpose, I think, it is continuous. And I think we're going to do it the entire time that we're here. I think there's adjustments to it in the sense that the soul goes, oh, okay, I should do it this way. It's a pretty intelligent little body. But life purpose, I think, changes with each chapter. There was a time that I was supposed to be a radio DJ and I was supposed to be right there. And that was my full purpose. I didn't belong anywhere else. Much like when I figured out I was an astrologer, I tried to take another job out of fear, right? I tried to do something part-time because I was like, I'm going to starve, right? So purely out of fear. And I didn't belong at that job because that was not my life purpose at that time. My job and my life purpose was to sit, be with the fear, and to do astrology. So I think life purpose can change as we go. The soul purpose is, I think, the one that's going to stick with us. What are we really doing through the duration of our time here?
And I love too that there's always like this breadcrumb trail I find with the soul purpose, and the fact that you got brought into radio before you got into astrology set you up perfectly to be ready to do YouTube, which you didn't even know what that was. But so like, you couldn't have planned or prepped for that because you didn't even know it existed. And but life put you in the exact situations that you needed to be in to get the skill set that is very new. You know what I'm saying? Like the way that astrology is practiced today requires different things than it might have required, decades ago, because there is so much of an emphasis on being able to reach people through these technological platforms that we have, which you obviously have really leveraged.
Yeah, and the craziest part about really the setup of the breadcrumbs, right? I think, my plan, right? I'm going to go to medical school and this is going to be the thing. Meanwhile, what I was actually doing in college was dancing and speaking multiple languages. I was not studying anything pre-med. So, right, like the vision in my head is way different than what my feet have done, thank goodness. But when I landed in radio, I worked with some big names. I worked with celebrities. It was a very good experience. And every single one of them would say, your strength is not in radio. You need to switch your medium to TV. And I could never get it. I could never get how that would ever translate. So, when I look at the timing of my life purpose at that time, it was to learn these skills. It was to be in front of these people. And then, once the transition happened, and as soon as I turned on the camera, I had immediate response and I went, oh my gosh, this is what they were saying. This is why they said to change my medium. Not that I wasn't fine in radio, but I needed to be in TV. And I was like, well, it only took a decade.
Well, again, I think what you're speaking to so deeply is this process of trusting, of trusting the unfolding of life. And again, how would you have known that TV meant internet TV or YouTube? Because again, it didn't even exist. So what exists, what will exist 10 years from now, 20 years from now that we can't even fathom that we're being prepped for, So like, just think about that, you guys. You're doing these things, you're having these experiences. You might not even know why you're doing certain things, but that underlying trust that you've brought, Stormy, to everything that you've done. And I know there's probably times where you were in it and you weren't totally trusting. You're like, what the hell's going on? But I think it's just important for us all to remind each other that there is a intelligence that is operating in our lives and orchestrating experiences so that you are living that purpose that your soul came to live.
Absolutely. I think that is so critical for us to do just that. More so to remind each other, like you said, like I need other humans to remind me, because my soul purpose, I genuinely believe for all of us, it's going to play out, right? Like it doesn't need my help. It doesn't really need my influence. It's going to do what it's going to do. However, I forget because I am also laced with the human condition, which makes me a fast learner and a fast forgetter as well. You know what I mean? And I'm like, one moment I'm in my purpose and this is my joy. And then I'm like, we're going to starve. So it is just like that, so having the remembrance. And I also think it's important for us to remind each other, because that last year that I was in radio was entirely painful. Almost every single day. It was painful to detach from this place that I had a love for. And I knew I was leaving it for something I had no idea about. I had 2 children I was taking with me. My family are all judges and lawyers and senators. So I'm like, I'm going to be an astrologer on YouTube. I did not have tons of support. I had fear, being met in that way. So to be reminded that maybe the path looks way different than I think, but it is the soul purpose nonetheless. I need that. I need to give that to other people too, to, nourish myself.
Absolutely. It's been one of the biggest motivators behind what I do as well, because when you're in that, and we all go through cycles of it, to have that hand reach out to you and just say, look, you're okay. You're not going crazy. You're doing great. Actually, you're doing much better than you realize. That is just like, oh God, okay, maybe I can do this. Like maybe I can keep going. And I agree with you. It's so needed on that path and on that journey. And, and then we fall in and out of it. So having people that do that for us. And that's one of the reasons why I am so enamored with what's available to us with technology. The fact that you're all listening right now to this podcast and we are here having this conversation that could be triggering that for you in this moment of like, okay, look, I'm all right. I'm not going crazy. Look, Stormy did it. I can do it.
Yes, absolutely. Those little reminders, it's like for me with astrology and in my practice, I like astrology to be the safest place that anybody could ever come to, where we're going to talk about the truth. We're going to have the truth, because that's what love is the truth. But you're going to know you're safe to grow up and to find what the lessons and what the purpose is here. And that some days, okay is like gold standard, because everybody has an okay season. So to know that you're safe and protected while you're learning, while you're in that, is just gorgeous. I don't know what I would have done without going to find other astrology lovers or teachers or people at that time, because my family was way too afraid to support me in my okay time, and I could have left it.
Oh, I love that. Okay, Stormy, what do you see as the most common misconceptions about soul purpose?
Oh, a couple. One I think is that just because you have the desire to know your soul purpose, that you will. I think that is a big misconception. I think half of us are out there living our soul purpose and we have no idea about it. You know what I mean? Or we're moving towards it and we have no idea about it, or we think it's something else, right? So just having the desire to know it I don't think it means for everybody you find out what it is in this plane, right? The other one I think is true is that people feel like they're not living it, So we have this beautiful magnifying mind that's like, this cannot possibly be my soul purpose. Exactly like me, where I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm not an astrologer. And they're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you are, So that's always an interesting place to meet people as well. And I do think that the last misconception I think is important is that it's some great mystery veiled from us. I do believe if you look, if you ask questions, if you ask teachers, if you do this kind of stuff and put a little bit of effort, you can at least get close to understanding it, if not get it. But again, I don't believe everybody knows in this plane every single time. And that's okay. That doesn't mean it has been less of a life, less of a lifetime, or any of those things. It just means you might not know, or maybe you do. but let's get close to it. Let's get as close to it as we can. That's what astrology is for, I think.
Yeah, that brings me right to my next question about astrology and soul purpose. How do you see astrology illuminating the soul purpose for people?
Absolutely. Like, what a beautiful roadmap. I don't know how many times I have sat with people and they are running themselves crazy in one area of their life because their human condition has decided that this is what the story needs to look like. Meanwhile, we jump into the chart together. We look at what are you really built to be doing here? And you get to watch this gorgeous surrender happen. They start getting some peace and some sanity back, and they're not so afraid anymore. They're living different. The human condition is just something. That is just, the ego is a trip. You know what I mean? And then you take this roadmap out and say, oh, ego, I don't think I'm going for that anymore. And you need to change the whole course of what your life experiences. And that, what the heck? I wish I got a roadmap like that when I had kids. They're like, you know what? On January 3rd, there's going to be a conjunction. Do this, feed them this. That would have been easier, Not like that.
So what do you, when people, let's say like that example you gave of someone running around crazy over here thinking that they're supposed to be living a certain life, they get insights into their chart and it's like, whoa, permission. That thing that's been inside of me, I can go for it, like green light. What do you see as the biggest challenges that come up for people as they're given information that changes their self-concept or changes their perception of what might be possible in their life?
I think the biggest challenge, and I think it's the same for everybody, is that dance of faith and fear. For me, I teach astrology in a very faith-based way, which is not, whatever your faith is, that is what it is. But my conception of faith is I have no idea if this is going to work out, but I'm jumping off this cliff anyways, right? And so I think that is the biggest challenge that we meet, that everybody meets. As soon as we have permission, you would think like kids when they ask mom, can we go outside in the sprinkler? And then they just run out once she says yes. You would think that would be humans. And that's not always us, right? Sometimes we have this hesitation. We get to the door and it's like, oh my God, I might be naked outside, So it's like weird. And the other thing that I think is the biggest challenge is when the faith is lacking, the courage to take action, right? I did not think myself into an astrology practice. I had to move my feet, but before the faith got big enough, that was not the case, right? So I think that is the biggest challenge that stands in the way, faith and action. And so we do that dance of faith and fear over and over and over again until we do get some action, which is great. Because ultimately we find the encouragement, we find the inspiration, we get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and we move.
Absolutely. Sometimes the pain of the soul not expressing the way that it wants to, that for me, people would say that was so courageous what you did. I changed my whole life. I moved from New York City to Hawaii and literally hit the restart button and started life all over. And people would say that was so courageous. I've always wanted to do something like that. And it was like, gosh, I don't know if I would use the word courage, because it was like I didn't have a choice. Like I had to. The pain of staying where I was so great. And it wasn't like physical pain. It was like soul. It was existential pain. It was just like, I can't do this anymore. So, I think that can be, that can also be a big push. Now let's talk a little bit about 2020. A lot of astrologers are pointing the spotlight on the big conjunctions and the big things that are happening in 2020. I'd love for you to speak to that. And then also, if you believe that doing this work right now on finding, connecting with, aligning with, understanding soul purpose is especially important now, like in this time. Do you believe that? If so, why? And just talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, 2020 is the hot topic, isn't it? Besides Uranus going into Taurus today, but 2020. So it's going to be big. It's a big deal. We're ending an era. We're coming into a new place. And that is what I think is big and significant about it, honestly, is that we're just going to see a change in how we've done things. We've done things in an energy that has been very earthy and very heavy for a long time. So our structures have held in place for a very long time. And as we get through and into 2020, we're going to see things shift. But then as we're leaving 2020, I think that's when things really get good, because we move into an airy energy, right? And that's where we need to go. And that's the place that I think is so significant too, because if you watch Facebook, you watch social media, you watch the news, we've got a lot of teasing going on about our millennials and who and how they are. And that generation is perfectly built for the airy energy we're going into. So I think that is going to be a shock to our little social systems as well, that we're like, oh my gosh, these people are actually doing a thing. They weren't just hanging out for us to make memes about, or they weren't overly sensitive, or they weren't whatever, because that intuitive generation knows what's coming. They really do. So in that, the era is going to change. How we do things, renewable, reusable energies, all of these will shift, and technology will, become even bigger and more significant than I think it is now. However, I will say this in and throughout 2020 as well. What I think is equally as significant with finding the soul purpose and the year in general, 2020 is going to be a year, I think, for everybody where their feet are held to the fire. I really do. I think for every individual out there, the world, the universe is asking us at a soul level, what are you doing and what are you built to do? And why are you not on course? Right? What's in your way that you're not moving to sustain your own survival, and thus those around you as well? So the people who I really think are going to have a little bit more challenge with this are our new Saturn returners. Honestly, because they have just become adults. So in 2020, they're going to be like baby adults. And it's weird. You get to this new planet of adulthood and you're like, what am I doing? Nothing in my life was working. And now I've had this huge return. And I have this whole new mind frame, but I don't quite know what to do with it yet. So we're going to have a lot of discovering what the heck we're supposed to be doing so that we can also help them. They just got off the bus. We've got to integrate them in here because they're going to take us into that airy energy as well, right? These are our brand new adults, our new teachers, our new guides, and whatever. And to speak to that, 2012, I think that the universe unloaded a bus full of brand new healers, brand new teachers, brand new guides, right? People just woke up. They just left their jobs. And they were like, I'm sorry, I've been a doctor, but I'm going to be a kayak instructor. And that was my client. And he's a kayaking instructor, completely happily, spiritually helping people on the waters. Okay. But that was a big deal because the new era, I think, is coming. People had to take their seats at the table of the next teachers and guides and helpers for our world, for sure. So I do think it's significant to discover your soul purpose, because you don't want to be sitting out there wondering what the heck you're supposed to be doing. We're all going to be doing that because we're humans, but you don't want to be really lost in it, is what I think.
Okay. So speaking of, you are going to be one of 6 astrologers who will be our guides in our soul purpose course that's opening up for registration at the end of March. And your focus is going to be on the sun placement in the chart and how the sun placement in the chart helps us understand our soul purpose. So can you just give us a high level overview of the kinds of things that we're going to be looking at and how you're going to help us look at the astrology chart in that way from the soul purpose lens through the sun?
Yeah, absolutely. The sun is so exciting. The sun, I think, is one of the coolest placements because it's kind of like no matter where it's happening in your chart, you're going to all have the influence. The same sun signs are going to have some of the same core level lessons. You're going to have some of the same influence. So you know that in this life, in this incarnation, however you view it, there are some things that all y'all are set to be working on. So you get to join a tribe, which is great, right? But also in that sun energy, I think it's so amazing because you want to be seen here. This is your light, your heat, your vitality. You're like, tada, look what I can do. And it's all in your sun energy. And if you are not connected to your tada, I assure you, you're uncomfortable, right? There's something so beautiful about the moon energy and all of these other energies, and it's gorgeous. But when the sun is not allowed to shine, those flowers don't bloom, right? Like it's a rough scene. So I'm excited to talk about that. We'll look at what is your Tada energy? What are you actually trying to establish here? And then where in your life are you supposed to be shining that sun? I'm a Taurus, so I've got to build value here. I've got to build value. I've got to build esteem. I'm going to do that in the material plane as well. But I'm going to do that through the resources of the 9th house. I'm going to be a teacher. Right? I'm going to study higher thought. I'm going to share truths, right? And so, of course, in radio, I did publishing and broadcasting, and I did it with ease because my son was like, see me out here, right? then it really started to shine when I became a teacher, and I went, this is me. And that moment is available for all of us. And even if you only touch on it for a week, if you only have the courage to touch on it for a week or 3 days, when you touch your sun sign, you go, I am awesome.
You know, it's so interesting, Stormy. I feel like people have a journey with their sun sign. And I think some sun signs are just, maybe our society values the attributes of them more obviously. And then some sun signs, it's less. So like for me, it's been a journey being a Capricorn, because in the beginning I was like, God, that is boring and dry and like heavy, and like who wants to be around that, you know? But the more that I've understood about Capricorn, it's not just a goat, it's a sea goat, it's a mystical creature. And actually the word Capricorn comes from the word capricious, which is playful and fun, and like, oh wow, and it's in the 12th house, which is very spiritual. It's like, okay, now I can connect with it. But that's where I feel that the understanding, it's an understanding in layers that needs to be revealed. And so those of you out there who, you know about your sun sign and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of like get it. I kind of resonate, but you don't really feel that what Stormy just described, that like, oh yes, this is me. I think it's going to be really exciting for you as a part of this class to let Stormy guide you to that place of, oh yes, this is me. And when I get to shine this life is good,
It'd be great. I think people are going to really love it. I hope that they walk out with that sense of like, oh my gosh, I should do that. And not all of us have, the sun in a very public place. Sometimes you're meant to shine at home and quiet and just be fabulous. And we'll figure it out. I'll show you. And as soon as you touch it, you're going to be like, oh, I'm so great.
Oh my gosh, so exciting, Stormy. It is so wonderful to have you here and to have you as a part of this upcoming course. And you're also going to be doing you're part of the live chart reading demo that we're going to be doing March 26th and 27th. So any of you interested in seeing how Stormy works with the sun signs, you'll get to watch her do that in a few of the audience members' charts live, which is going to be very fun. Very fun. Stormy, do you have any resources on soul purpose that have helped you on your journey? Any books, any teachers, anything that you could offer to people?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, the book that is like the base of my whole life is 7 Levels of Intimacy by Matthew Kelly. That book changed the rhythm of how I think and interact in the world completely, because it just talks about the level of intimacy. And to me, whether it's the sun or any other position in your astrology as a human being, when you can touch that level of intimacy or output it, that it just changes the game. So that book is like everywhere. I just give it as gifts to people. So I'm sure they're like, please don't give me that book. I have 2,
All right. We'll put the link for that in the show notes. So you said 7 Layers of Intimacy by...
7 Levels of Intimacy by Matthew Kelly.
Matthew Kelly. Okay. Awesome. I'm sorry. I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, that's okay. My other teachers that I love to follow are Sonia Choquette. She is one of my favorites. She talks very much about vibrational work, trust your guides, trust your intuition, and those kinds of things. And absolutely everything ever written by Jan Spiller. Like, I just loved that woman and her work. So, whether you're new or whether you're a little bit more advanced in the actual astrology of it, she's got information available to you. And the thing that I like about Jan that I think is important is that she, in her writing, would ask you questions to make you think about if you are on your path, because I can tell you what faith is for me. I can give you a description, but we've got to weigh these next to our own soul and say, that's my truth, or no, that's not my truth. So her books, love it, make me think.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stormy. It has been such a pleasure to have you here today. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with when it comes to soul purpose? Any final messages?
I think to just not be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. Sometimes the soul, this very interested, curious little energy, wants to learn and experience things that are innately painful or are innately messy. And sometimes they're so good and joyful that it's like, this cannot be my life. The soul is trying to learn in so many different ways. that just because it maybe doesn't feel absolutely awesome all the time doesn't mean you're not in your soul purpose or that it's wrong. It looks a lot of different ways, but you may need to get another voice or tribe involved so you can see that you're actually in the soul purpose instead of in unnecessary pain or unnecessary chaos or unnecessary super excitement, Be grounded, and it just looks a little bit different sometimes. So that's what I'd say.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to connect with you on the several things that we have coming. And I just really appreciate you being here with all of us today. Thanks, Stormy.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you guys, isn't she so adorable? So radiant, so magnetic. I just love her. And I love that for our upcoming course, she's going to be the one covering the sun in your chart, because that really is that radiant essence within you. And she just embodies that so wonderfully. All right, so I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I did. I mentioned this at the end of the call, and I'll say it again here. If you're interested in watching how Stormy works with the sun in an astrology chart, you can sign up for the free live chart reading demo she will be a part of at the end of March. There are going to be 2 days of live demos. Each day will be featuring different astrologers and different points in the chart. Now, even if you cannot join us live, please make sure and register, because then we will know to send you the limited time recording of the event. So even if you can't join us live, please register, reserve your spot, and that way I'll know to send you the email with the replay of the chart reading demos. And you can go to astrologyhub.com/soul to reserve your spot now. Even if you are on the go right now on your phone or mobile device, you can easily reserve it on your phone. Just go to your browser. I mean, obviously, as long as you're not driving, but go to your browser, just put astrologyhub.com/soul, and it's all mobile friendly. You should be able to just enter your name and email, and you will be on the list, and I will love to see you there. Next week, we're going to be talking about astrolocation with astrologer Verdeluz. So if you're considering a move or a vacation and you want to know where your personal power spots are on this planet, you are going to love this episode. You'll also be receiving the forecast for next week on Monday. And in the meantime, I want to thank you for tuning into the Astrology Hub podcast, for being a part of our community, and for making astrology a part of your life. I'll catch you on the next episode. Do you have questions about your unique path, your soul purpose? Do you ever wonder what to look for in the astrology chart to find the answers you're looking for about important choices you need to make? If so, you're officially invited to join us for a free live soul purpose chart reading demo on March 26th or 27th. During this special live event, we'll be looking at audience members' charts and asking 4 astrologers to decode different aspects of the chart as it relates to soul purpose. If you want to watch these live soul purpose chart readings, you can reserve your spot now by going to astrologyhub.com/soul. Shamanic astrologer Tammy Brunk will be translating the message of the moon's placement. Nadia Shah will look at the moon's south and north node. Stormy Grace will interpret the sun sign as it relates to soul purpose, and Divine Harmony will share the messages of the Saturn placement. Watch these experts translate the language of the stars and get insights into your chart and your soul purpose. Join us now at astrologyhub.com/soul. Again, that's astrologyhub.com/soul. I cannot wait to see you there. You're listening to the Astrology Hub podcast, practical wisdom for living your life on purpose.
Hi, this is Chris Kaplan, the producer of the Astrology Hub podcast. This episode is over, but check the show notes for links to products and services you've heard about during this episode. And if you enjoyed our show, please subscribe and rate using the subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts.